Okay, so this is the orientation session of the PLR Set Up Masterclass. And in the orientation, I want to just kind of let you know that the branding process in in the PLR setup is always going to be a separate thing. Because really what we call the branding process, which is sort of changing the graphics and making sure the graphics reflect your logo, make sure it reflects what you're trying to say, has a lot more to do with strategy. And really more should go into that in terms of making sure that your USP is included. And so this is probably needs to be covered in a separate in a separate vein, right? If we covered branding along with if we covered branding along with making sure that we set up things correctly, we'd miss some things in the branding process and we'd skip some things in the setup process. So that's a separate process. The other process is the repurposing process. And the repurposing process may not necessarily be fully relevant to the setup process, because what we're trying to do when we repurpose things is we're trying to make sure that we're taking the assets in a PLR package and we're putting them to use in a different way that suits our brand or suits our purpose. And really, that's a separate process from the branding process. There's a separate process from the setup process. So again, this is not something that we want to cover in this course. Here's what we want to get started with, and I want to say this at the outset, is you should already have in place, before you start the setup process, what you want to add in terms of your offer. So whatever you're going to be giving to the customer, this is the stage that you should be when you start to set up your PLR. So in other words, in many cases, what you're going to do is you're going to take everything that's in the PLR package and you're going to deliver that to the customer. I think that's great, although I think you should also be delivering some kind of additional value. You should be adding in some kind of additional bonus. And again, whether or not that's going to be part of the branding repurposing process just kind of depends, but whatever else you're going to add, it should be ready by the time you get to this stage. You should also have in place what you're going to be doing in terms of bonus. I think I just kind of said that, but if you're going to be adding in some additional videos, if you should be going to be adding in some additional audios, those things should already be in place by the time you get here. So there shouldn't be anything else you're going to be putting in the package by the time you start the setup process. This is the final thing you're going to be doing before you start driving traffic. In other words, your marketing strategy should be in place, your branding strategy should be in place, everything you're going to be changing, all those things should be done. If you're changing the graphics, that should be complete. You should not be doing that at this stage. You should already be ready to start creating something that's going to be traffic worthy. Right now, the other thing that you should have at this point is you should have your domain name. You should have a delivery account and a hosting account. I'm going to talk about the delivery account because the delivery account is basically where you're going to store the content you're going to be delivering to the customer. Now, in some cases, if you're using a system like, let's say, S2 Member, where you can store the files in the same place where you're hosting them, and then you can protect them in a different way that you're going to do otherwise, then that is a cause for maybe perhaps using a delivery account that's going to be in the same place as your hosting account. But in general, you should already have your domain name and a delivery account. Now, what do I mean by a delivery account? I'll tell you that here in a minute. And probably the most important thing that I do want to say here in the orientation is you don't have to have multiple domain names to create multiple PLR offers, right? You don't have to have that. And so in this case, you don't have to have, if you're going to have a Facebook PLR package, you don't have to have a domain name. It's going to be Facebook PLR. You can have yourdomain.com /Facebook PLR. And in some cases, that's going to be an easier thing for your customer to understand, especially going to have multiple products, than if you have all different domain names, which could be cost prohibitive depending on your marketing, your marketing decisions. Right now, you should probably already have some kind of business-related PayPal account. You should have an active JVZoo Warrior Plus account if you're going to go that route. Now, the minimum you need to have is going to be a PayPal account, right? And you can have something like ThriveCard, Warrior Plus, or JVZoo, but typically they're going to require some kind of payment system, and that payment system, for the most part, if you're going to be working with people in the make money online niche, you're going to be working with a PayPal account, right? So you're going to need to have that at minimum. So that should really already be in place. If you're not ready at that point, you should be getting there very quickly. So you'll be getting and establishing a PayPal account. And it really should be, if possible, it should be a business-related PayPal account. In some cases, you might start with a standard account, and it will take payments. But what I will tell you is that they will really want you to have a business account, which is a different designation, allows you to take different payments, and gives you a different level of, let's say, I wouldn't say security, but it gives you a different level of scrutiny in terms of the payments that come into your account right now. And the goal of this entire course, right, is for you to be ready for traffic to come to your platform. So right now, if you sort of have the PLR and it's sort of out there and it's not hosted, it's not ready, the goal is to get you ready so that you can do this yourself a couple of times, so that you're doing it over and over again, so you can do it almost in your sleep. If you practice I'd say the steps we're going to be walking through, you're going to be able not only to teach other people, you're going to be able to teach your outsourcer how to do it. You're going to be able to teach a family member how to do it. You're going to be able to teach even a client or a customer how to do it. So even if you have a client, right, let's say that part of your business is to do this for someone. If you're a marketer and you're listening to me right now, probably one of the most valuable things that you can do at this point would be to set up would be to create a product for someone, to get it set up and get a buy button on there. You would be surprised at the number of people who already have traffic. They already have people looking at them. They already have, let's say, a platform. What they don't have, what they don't necessarily fully understand, is how to set up a digital product. And if you're not necessarily wanting to go out and market people and direct people to your sales page, one of the things that you can do is you can create a service doing the very thing that I'm going to be showing you how to do in this course. So again, think about that. If you like performing a service, if you don't necessarily want to sell the product, but you want to do this for someone else, set a price tag on doing this for someone and start setting up their product. It is a valuable service in this market. So let's talk about what a setup should do. So by the time that a setup is complete, what should we expect? What should your system do once it's set up? Well, first, a properly done setup should collect leads before you make a sale. So if somebody comes to your website, they come to your web presence, or you direct them into something that you have, you should have a system set up that collects leads before the sale. If you don't have that, this is part of what the setup process is going to do for you, and you should have that by the time your full setup is done. A properly done setup should pre-sell your prospect leads. So you should have messages, and you'll typically get this from your PLR package, where you can take the emails and you can actually pre-sell your offer. Well, you want to make sure those emails are set up inside of your autoresponder and that they're ready to go when a person either comes to you as a lead, or even if they come to you from the sale, you should be collecting leads. A properly done setup should present your sales page. So in other words, your sales page should be ready to go. Now again, you might have to learn a little HTML, but you don't have to know a lot. And in most cases, if you're not changing the sales page a lot, you should have a sales page that reflects what you wanted to say. Now again, when you get a sales page from a PLR package, it's not expected that you use it word for word. It's expected that you change it to suit your language. And again, this is not an HTML course, but we are going to show you how to go in and make some basic changes so that the sales page reflects the things you wanted to say. Please, when you get a sales page, if you get a PLR package and you want to host the sales page, please change the language, right? Change the language to make sure it says and it talks the way you talk. One of the disconnects, and one of the things I find, even if all you want to do is you want to get the offer and you want to get it up and you want to get the host, you want to drive traffic to it. The idea behind having a sales page done for you is so that it becomes a template for you to make changes. It's not for you to use verbatim as is. Because one of the disconnects that happens is somebody comes to that sales page and it doesn't sound like something you say. It doesn't sound like your webinars. It doesn't sound like your training. And you want to make sure that the language in your sales page sounds like you. You don't want it to sound hypey. You don't want it to sound like something that's not you, not unless you're a hypey person, right? If you are a hypey person, and let's say that the sales page you get, it's not hypey enough. Make sure it says things the way you want them to be said. Now, a setup should be facilitating the buying process. So in other words, you've got to have a buy button on there, right? So the first thing and foremost thing is you've got to get the right buy button, and the buying process should happen. When your process is set up, it should send people, your buyers, to the upsell sales page, right? So that's part of the setup process. So in other words, they buy the front end, they should be sent to the back end, right? Now that's a process. It's not a difficult process, but that's what your setup process should do. Your setup process should send your buyers to the right download page. Let's say that they only buy the front end, they choose not to buy the back end. They should then be sent directly to the correct download page to get the correct product. If they buy the upsell, they should be sent to the correct download page to get the upsell and the front end. Right? So again, it's not a difficult process, but it's one that your setup process should do. Your setup process should collect leads on the sale of your product. This is probably going to be the most important thing you're going to do. If somebody buys your product, they click and buy, you want to make sure that you have a process in place to collect the lead on the basis of that sale. If you're not doing that, what you're really doing is you're really only building yourself for a one-time sale. You are setting your business up to work extremely hard to get your next sale, because you won't be able to contact the people that are actually buying your product, who actually liked what you had to say, who liked your pre-sale. These are going to be the people that you want to continue to market to. And if you don't market to them, or if you miss the opportunity by not collecting the lead on front, then what you're doing is missing an opportunity. Now, a setup should include your unique bonus, right? So again, now we talked about having a bonus. If you're going to use a PLR package and you're going to use it as is, you're going to use a sales page, one of the things you're going to be able to do to differentiate, and one of the things you can do to almost assure a second sale, is to have something awesome as a bonus, but you want to have that inside of your sales page. You want to be able to deliver that on your thank you page, and that should be part of the setup process. In fact, listen, you should not even be considering hosting a PLR package without a bonus, right? Even if it's not going to be something personal, please put something else in the package that's going to be unique. One of the questions that you probably have heard, maybe you've asked it, I've heard it a lot, is how do I make this if everybody else has it? Well, one of the ways you make a sale when everyone else has it, one of the ways you make a second, third, and fourth sale from even the person who bought me the first time, is to have something awesome in it that reflects you, that you know your customers and the people who are buying from you want. There are going to be times, I've done it myself, where I have bought something strictly on the basis of the bonus. Right? So if you have something that's going to be awesome, it should be in this setup process. You should already have it ready to go. And if you're going to be recruiting affiliates, your setup process should be ready for your affiliates to find your link and promote. Right, so what are we going to be doing in the PLR Setup Masterclass? We're going to be doing basically over-the-shoulder instruction. We are going to leave time for questions at the end. So we go through the process. Then at each stage, we're going to stop for questions. And we're going to take your questions. And then we're going to move on to the next session. So this is the orientation. We are then going to be doing next. We're going to start with a thank you page. And we're going to start with the thank you page, because the thank you page is really going to be, it's going to drive everything else, right? So the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to take the links that you place in from your delivery account, you're going to be placing them on your thank you page, and that's going to drive everything else. So that's really the last thing we need to do first. We start with the thank you page. We start with the thank you page for the front end. We start with the thank you page for the upsell. The next thing we're going to talk about is your autoresponder and email system. And again, that's going to be the next thing, because in some cases, what you are going to need to do is you're going to need to put something on your thank you page to ask for the lead. Now, again, not every system you're going to have is going to collect that lead on the sale. So one of the things you're going to need to do, I call it bolt and suspenders, is to make sure you are asking someone for their email address once they make the purchase on the download page. And we're going to be doing that. But you've got to have your autoresponder set up. You've also got to have your email set up, and that autoresponder and the email system really should replace the lead with the name of the sale. So in other words, someone comes into your marketing funnel, they become your lead, and then they make the purchase. We want to make sure that they're treated differently. We want to make sure that you have two separate lists. You want to make sure you have a prospect list. You want to make sure that you have a buyer's list. We are going to do that in this process. You want to make sure that your setup does that so that you can begin to talk to people in the ways they need to be discussed, in the ways they need to be communicated with, so that they will eventually buy. Right now, we're going to make sure you set up your squeeze page properly. We're going to make sure you set up your sales pages properly, right? That's going to be one session. And we're going to go through testing your system. That's going to be the last session. Okay, now, okay, so what we want to do, right, is in this orientation session is to do some basics. We're going to kind of get the preliminaries out of the way. So we're going to take what we are going to be delivering in the course. We're going to be taking what we're going to be delivering as the product to the customer, and we want to upload content to a delivery system. Now, once again, this is going to be a non-secure way of delivering the content. Right now, you're going to secure it by making sure that the download page is not going to be something that someone can guess. If you want to secure the content, you can do that and go one extra step. In most cases, what you're going to be doing when you do that can complicate things more than you want it to. Right? So if you want to get your project up and running, you want it, your download page will probably be not guessable, but it's not going to be fully secure. And I want to say that here at the outset. There are a couple of ways to do that. Someone here mentioned, I think Jim mentioned, Amazon S3. One of the reasons why I'm going to suggest that you consider one of the other systems and not Amazon S3 from the beginning, right, is because Amazon S3 is going to be based on the amount of bandwidth that you use. So in other words, if someone comes to download your file, let's say they got to download it 20,000 times. That's just an extreme. You're going to be charged for the bandwidth. Right? You're going to be charged for the number of times they actually go get the file. So in some cases, you've got really big files, you got really big video files, then what's happening is someone's hitting that download. Every time they hit it, you're going to be not necessarily charged a lot of money, but the more volume you do, the more you're charged. Now again, in some cases, when you're at a certain point, it's not going to matter. You're going to use Amazon S3. However, when you're just getting started and you want it to be simple and you're trying to be cost effective, you can use a site like Mediafire or Dropbox, right? These are non-secure on the one hand, but on the other hand, they will deliver your file in a good enough manner. Right now, if you do want to secure the content on the page, you can use a membership plugin like Wishlist Member. Right, so let's talk about that for a little bit, because it's going to be the same process you use in order to upload a bonus to your delivery system. So I'm going to go here into, and what we're looking at here is Mediafire, right? Very simple. And all you're really going to do here is once you have an account with Mediafire, and again, there is a free level of Mediafire. So if you're just getting started, you want to have a place to deliver your content. You can start with Mediafire, and I think it's scalable. Right, so what we can do is we're just going to create a folder here, and we're going to call this delivery. Right, you can actually call this what you want. I'm just calling it delivery for the sake of this tutorial. We're going to open up this area that says delivery. What I'm going to do then is all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my file. Right, and I've got it here. Right, I'm just going to drag and drop it into the directory. Pretty simple. Right, so again, Mediafire for the most part is going to be free to get started. There's going to be an upload process, so you'll see the file being uploaded there. Okay, and then once your file is done, you're going to use this link to deliver onto your thank you page. Again, very simple. Right? Let's assume you have a bonus. Same process, right? Making sure that you have enough space, of course. You'll grab the file, drag and drop it into the delivery area. Same process. Okay, so Jim's question is, are you dragging and dropping on a Mac or PC? I'm using a PC, but the same process, you can use the Mac, Jim. Same process. Okay, so now we have our files there, right? So again, these are going to be the files that your customer is going to get. And they're going to get it. You're going to take this link and go to the thank you page when we get to that point. Right now. One of the other things you're going to need to do is you're going to need to create space for your sales pages on your hosting. And so you remember I talked about the fact that one of the things that we're not going to do here is we're not going to get a separate domain for each product. If you're going to have multiple products, what you're going to do is you're going to be using one domain name. Now, again, that might not suit your marketing plan, but in most cases, when you're getting started, the easiest way to get started is going to be for you to be able to use one domain and to use subdirectories. I'm going to show you how to do a subdirectory right now. Okay, so all you're going to do when you go inside of your hosting, and right now I'm using FileZilla. I'm going to go inside of my public HTML, and I'm going to create a directory. I'm going to create a directory for my product where I'm going to be uploading my files. And in this case, I'm going to upload, and I'm going to call this Facebook PD, right? That's my Facebook product. If I want to have a LinkedIn product, I can do another directory. I can call this LinkedIn PD. And all these are going to be separate directories for separate products. And I can do this as many times as I want. I can create one for YouTube. I can do one YouTube PD. So again, what's going to happen is when your buyer gets ready to see the URL, they're going to see yourdomain.com/Facebook PD. They're going to, when you get ready to show them the next product, it's going to be yourdomain.com/YouTube PD. So the idea here is, again, to create separate subdirectories so that you'll then be able to upload your content and create separate products, but all on the same domain, so you don't have to get two different domains. You don't have to get many different domains. Now, one of the other things you're going to need to do is you're going to need to get an email address that matches your domain in cPanel. So, for example, we're going to do here inside of our domain is we're just going to create an email address. Right now, this is going to be the email address that we're going to be using inside of our autoresponder. You're just going to click Add an Email Account. You're going to give this email account a name and a password. Okay, so you're going to use this email address inside your autoresponder. And the reason you're going to do this is that most cases, when you're trying to send email, you are going to be using the links that we created here from a specific domain name. You want to make sure that your email address in your autoresponder matches that domain, because otherwise what it looks like to an ISP is that you're doing something spammy and promotional. Right, so now it's not 100%, I'd say it's not going to be 100% certain, but it's one of the ways that you can communicate to the internet service providers as well as your email system that you are not doing something spammy. Right, okay. Now, one of the other things you're going to want to do here in the preliminary stage is to set up a support system. I suggest that you set up some kind of support system that you can pay for on a monthly basis, like Zendesk or Freshdesk. And again, we're not talking about a great deal of money here. In most cases, I think with Zendesk, there is a free setup. I think as much as, I think it could be $9 a month. So again, it's not necessarily an expensive one. I personally use Zendesk, and it will get your emails delivered to your customer. And that's really what you want more than anything else. There's another system called Freshdesk. Now, obviously, there are other systems, but these are going to be probably going to be the most reliable in terms of sending an email, in terms of ease of use, in terms of making sure that your customer is actually going to get an email when they have a support issue. Now, you can use a self-hosted one. If you choose to use a self-hosted one, there is one inside of cPanel called OS Ticket. We are going to work on the thank you page. We're going to start with the thank you page because once you set up your thank you page, you will then be ready to do the rest of the setup. And you really should do this page first, followed by, actually, and what it should follow is making sure that you have your deliverables in your delivery system. And we went over that in the previous session. If you recall, you'll notice here that we have our two files here inside of media file. Now, you can use Dropbox or any other delivery system that you want. Of course, you can also use a system where you're doing it inside of the same place where you're going to be putting your domain files, right? But I do not advise that. I advise that you get a system where people are going to be able to hit those files where they're going to be able to get them from a separate location, because what can sometimes happen is you can get a lot of traffic at the same time while somebody's coming to your sales page. You don't want them necessarily going to the download files, and in some cases where you have an ISP or you have hosting, all that traffic coming at the same time, they can throttle the traffic. Right, so again, I suggest you get a delivery account. You can get Amazon S3. We talked about the fact that Amazon S3 last night will charge you for the bandwidth that you use. So the people that are coming to your site, if you get a lot of traffic, you get a lot of people downloading big files, that can cause you a problem. It can cause you an expense. Now again, it's not going to be a big expense, but it is going to be an expense. Let's go back to the presentation. What we're going to do first, obviously, you want to make sure that you upload your pages and images to the server first. Now, that means then you're going to need to go to your FileZilla account. You're going to need then to decide where you're going to put your files or what you're going to name your system. Now, in this case, we're going to name this file, we're going to name this product Dragon. So we're going to put a subdirectory there called Dragon. Right, so I'm going to look inside of Dragon here. You notice there's not going to be any files. What I'm also going to be able to do then is once I place my files there, I'm going to be able to see those files inside of that subdirectory. Right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab my thank you page, which is the download page here. I'm just going to grab all these files. And I'm going to drag and drop them into FileZilla, into the directory I just created. Right, and actually what I can do here is I can call this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this something separate. I'm going to call this DL, and I'm going to give this thank you 2018, or thank you DR. Right, I'm going to move all those files inside of that subdirectory. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to test out this directory. So I'm going to copy the URL. I'm going to go to my incognito browser. I'm going to place that URL inside of the address bar. When I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the public HTML. And then I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to bring this all the way back to the beginning. I'm going to put HTTP. You put HTTPS if you already have a secure domain. And then what we're going to do is we should be able to then see our download page or our thank you page. All we did was upload our documents to a directory inside of our FTP. Right? That's all we wanted to do right now. We haven't connected anything. We just want to make sure that our files work. Okay, so to go forward now, what we're going to do now is we're going to now start to edit this page. So we've uploaded our pages to the server. We've checked the appearance. Our appearance is good. We're now going to check the URL. We just did that, right? So that's what we did when we went to this URL based on the directory that we put this in. And we want to change that URL to make it unguessable, right? So here's what we want to do. I'd like to then change this to something that's going to be not guessable. So I'm going to change the name of this to, maybe I'm going to change the name. I'm going to append that with a number, right? I might append this with 723 or something like that. But I just want to make it so that it's not guessable. Right, then that's going to be our directory. So then I'm going to go back. I can then copy my URL. And I can then see that new URL. Remember, I'm going to take the public HTML out. I'm going to reduce the FTP domain. And then this is now my new URL for my thank you page, right? So I just wanted to change that number or that URL so that it can't be guessed, because we're not going to secure this domain, this URL. We're not going to secure the content on there. We're going to make this easy to get to, and so in order to do that, we're just going to make this something that's hard to guess. Right now. What we're now going to do is we're now going to get that link that we created from our delivery location, right? So that means now that we're going to go back to the area where we uploaded our files. In this case, we have something inside of Mediafire. We can go to this download arrow or drop down arrow. We can then copy the link. That link is then copied to our clipboard. We now have that link inside of our clipboard. And now what we're going to do is we're going to change the HTML code inside of the thank you page file. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to this file, and we're going to change the index file here. Now, in some cases, what you're going to have here is you're going to have a page that says thank you.html. Now, in this particular product, what you have here is you have a separate subdirectory, and you have an index file. And again, all that does is make it easy for you to be able to change the file. So we're going to then right-click this file, and I'm going to open this inside of my HTML editor. Now, currently, I'm using Adobe Dreamweaver. You could be using something like Composer. You can use something like NVU if it's free, or whatever your HTML editor is. You are then going to open this index file with that editor. So I'm now going to click this box. That's going to open up this file inside of my HTML editor. Now, that's going to take a minute because of the timing. Okay, so we have opened this up inside of the HTML editor. Now, most HTML editors will allow you to split the screen between what you can see as well as the code. What I like to do is to go to the split screen. That allows me to see the page. It allows me to see the code at the same time. And pretty much where I place my cursor inside of the page, it'll also be in the same place inside of the code. If I highlight the code, I can also be in the same place on the screen. Right now, that's what Dreamweaver does, and indeed, most HTML editors do the same thing. So what I'm going to do now on the thank you page is I'm now going to scroll down. I'm going to find this download page. If you have a link for the one you're using, you can use that. I'm going to highlight this button, and then I'm going to find it in the code. Right, so you'll see it here in the code. You'll see there that there is a space here for the reference as well as the image source. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that URL that I just copied. I'm going to put it in between the quotations for the link reference. Right, so all I'm going to do now is I'm going to click Control V, And what I've done is I've taken that media file URL and I placed it inside of the quotations. Right? So all we've done now is we have then made this button clickable to our file. Right? So now we've pretty much done what we needed to do, except for the fact that if we have a bonus, we may not necessarily have a place for it if there's no button there. Right? So if I have a bonus, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to want to place some kind of text in this space. I'm going to make that text clickable. And typically, the easiest way to do that is going to be to find some existing text and then to place that text someplace on the page, either above or below that URL. And what I'd like to do here is I'd like to place my bonus here. That's going to be the easiest place to place the bonus. And all I really need to do here is I'm going to then take my cursor, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a break command. Right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a BR. I'm going to put another BR and bracket. I'm going to then take this same text, because all I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy that text. I'm going to place it after the break. I'm then going to put another break in there. I'm going to click now in here so I can see, okay, so there's my text. What I'm probably going to want to do now is I'm going to want to then take that text out. What I like to do then is I like to then center things. Right? So one of the things that I can do is I can then very simply, I can put a center command in there. Let's place that down on the line where it is. I'm going to take this one and I'm going to put it behind that text. Okay, I'm going to click inside of here, and now my text is going to be centered. Now what I want to do is I want to change this text to say something like, click here to download your bonus. So I'm going to edit this text to say what I want it to say. I may put it in all caps. Okay, I'll click back inside of there so I can see. Now I have my content, my line here, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to highlight this. And inside of Dreamweaver, what I can do here when I highlight that text is I can then insert a hyperlink for that text. Right, and you'll see there that it's going to link to this text. I'm then going to place in my bonus link. So I'm going to go back now to my media fire. I'm going to grab that link. I'm going to create another link. Now I'm going to come back here. I'm going to place that link inside of the text area. I'm now going to click OK. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save my file. So now I need to save the thank you page file. Right? That's what I do next. So we're going to come back here. I'm now going to save that file. And now all I need to do then is I need to upload this index file to the very same location where the other files are. Right? So now I've saved the file. I can find my folder where the file is saved. I can find my HTML. I'm going to click inside of there. I'm just going to now drag and drop that index file to that same location. FileZilla is now going to ask me if I want to overwrite the file. I should say yes. I'm then going to click OK. That file is now overwritten. Now I should have my new file in the area where my website files are. So now I should be able to go back to test that system or test that page. I should then be able to refresh that page. I now see my link for downloading my bonus content. We've now got our content link here. So now our customer should be able then to click this link, right, to get the file. And they've got the other file. Okay, so there's our file name again. Okay, so that's pretty much going to be our thank you page. We've uploaded our file to the server. We've tested the download link in our incognito browser and we're able to get it. So now we are then ready then to assume that our thank you page is now complete and we're now ready to move on to the next section. And then coming into GetResponse, I'm going to use Firefox. And one thing about GetResponse, and I said this a few minutes ago, is that you're going to need to use Firefox and not Chrome. Chrome does not respond properly. And we're going to start with the messages that we have in our system. Right? So in this case, we have messages inside of this PLR package. In this case, the messages are here, the credibility email boosting system. This is the 5-day series. And here is our email. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come inside of GetResponse. We're going to start by creating an autoresponder. We're going to choose one of our lists. So in this case, you can either create a separate list for your prospects, and in most cases, you're going to want to do that first. So why don't we do that? Why don't we first create a separate list for our prospects? Inside of GetResponse, we can do that by going to this drop-down arrow. And I can click Create Campaign. I'm going to call this campaign Prospect List. I'm going to click Create Campaign. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here. I'm now going to create an autoresponder. And now I'm going to use that list. I'm going to create an autoresponder message on day 1 for the list we just created, which is prospect list. I'm now going to create a new email. I'm going to title this email the same thing as the subject line. Track your time with Evernote. I'm going to save this. I'm going to go to the next step. I'm going to click Start from Scratch. Now that's going to be peculiar just to GetResponse. It may look differently inside of your autoresponder. But in general, you're going to start with a blank template and you're going to send emails in a plain system. Right? That's going to open up into the GetResponse email template, hopefully here in a minute. And what I'm now going to do is I'm going to drag and drop this text box into GetResponse. I'm going to take out the Latin text. I'm just going to cut and paste this email to the area. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this text. I generally, like I said, I like to take that out and just put a name. I'm going to substitute this area for my link to my product. Okay, so this is 16 point. One thing we can do is we can personalize this. In get response, all you'll do is go to this area. And I like to have the first name in there. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to save this. We're then going to go to the next step. Actually, first what we're going to do is we're going to go to the plain text. We're going to convert this to plain text for those who receive only plain text emails. And you do need to do that inside your autoresponder. So then I'm just going to space it out in the plain text side. That's not what I want to do. Okay, so now we have this done in the plain text side. What we can now do is we can go to our next step. And now our autoresponder message for day 1 has been created. Right, so now what I want to do? Well, I want to now create a message for day 2 so that the person, when they sign up, they're going to get one message a day promoting our product. And this is going to be the list they're going to be opted into when they come through our squeeze page. So what I want to do now is I now want to create a new message, right? Actually, I want to go back here. What I want to now do is I want to create a new message for day 2, right? And I want this message to be for day 2, this new one. And I'm now going to go through the same process. I'm not going to go back through this, and I'm going to go through this process for each of the emails. 1 through 5, or however many you have. You want to set up your emails so that you set them up for days 1 through 5. So if you're with me so far, please put the letter Y in the question box when setting up your autoresponders. Okay, so now what we have here is we have a series of messages for our prospects. What we also want to do is we want to have a message set up for the person who's going to buy the product. What I've done here is I've written a message that I'm going to place inside of on the download page. Okay, so this message is very basic. The message says, thanks for picking up whatever the product is. If you haven't yet seen your download, you can access it here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them the download link in that very first email. I'm also going to tell them, hopefully by now you've picked up the advanced version or whatever you call the upsell. You're going to give them the link to the upsell in the first email. You're also going to give them a support address and support email address. And if you have anything like a Facebook page or a YouTube channel, you want to add that in. Very simple message, and that's the very first message that you want people to get when they buy your product. Okay, so if you're with me right now, just based on what I've said, please put the number 2 in the question box. You understand this very first email and what it should be. Okay, very good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy this email. I'm going to start a new list. I'm going to start a different autoresponder for a different list. Let's say that what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to create an autoresponder now for the list, which is going to be new for the person that buys the product, right? So I'm going to create this new list. I'm going to create a campaign. I'm going to call this campaign New Product and I'm going to create this campaign. I'm now going to create another autoresponder. I want this to be for day 1 of the list I just created. I'm going to go through the same process. I'm going to now create a new email. I'm going to give this message a name. Thanks for purchasing our content. I'm going to save it. I'm going to go to the next step. I'm going to pretty much go through the same process now, except now I'm putting this new email so that the person gets this email as soon as they opt in. Or I'm sorry, as soon as they buy the product. This is what they're doing right now. So we're going to give them this email. As soon as they buy, they should be getting this email from our autoresponder because we're going to set it up so that the person ends up on this email as soon as they make the purchase. Now, we're also going to be covered in case they don't want to have an email come to them when they, when they buy. We're gonna cover that by making sure that we add an opt-in box to our download page. And we're going to do that in another step. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take out our text again. I'm going to now cut and paste. Right, there's our text. I'm going to now personalize this. And I'm going to now do the plain text. I'm going to do HTML to plain. And I'm just going to space out the text. And we're now going to close this. And we're going to save it. And we're now going to go to the next step. Okay, so we've now got message 1 for this new list. Okay, so if you're with me so far, please put the number 3 in the question box. If you're with me so far on creating a new email for the purchase. Okay, so now we have our new email so that when the person purchases, they're going to see that email come to them. We're also going to give them an opportunity to opt in on our download page by asking them to get updates. Okay, now let's close out this email. Okay, so we have set up our prospect list. We have set up a separate list for the buyers of our product now. Now what we need to do is we need to set up the automation rules for the buyers list. And we need to do that inside of GetResponse. So what are we going to do here? We're going to go now to automation. Let's see, let's make sure we save this. And basically what we're going to do now is we're going to create a workflow. Now inside of GetResponse, here's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to call this remove from prospect list. And inside of GetResponse, I'm going to start the automation process when someone is subscribed to a specific list. Right? I don't know if you can see that. Let me see if I can size this up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to start the process of automation when somebody is subscribed to a specific list. Right now, I'm going to determine what that list is going to be. I'm going to say that when someone is subscribed to by any method and any campaign, we're going to select the campaign and we're going to select specifically the buyers list. Okay, so when somebody is subscribed to the buyers list, what do I want to happen? Well, what I want to happen is I want them to be taken off the prospect list automatically so that the person isn't getting 2 emails. So what I'm going to do now is I'm now going to say remove the contact. So in this automation, I'm going to place this automation flow here. I'm going to now select the properties. I'm going to say now, remove this person from a specific campaign. I'm going to say remove the person now from our prospect list. I'm going to connect this automation. So now what I'm saying is whenever somebody becomes a buyer, if they're on our prospect list, remove them so that they are only going to be getting 1 campaign. Is everybody with me right now? So if you understand what I did, please put the number 4 in the question box. Okay, if you don't understand, please let me know, and I'll be happy to explain it to you. Okay, so that's really all that we need to do. Now, again, every autoresponder system is going to be different. So this is the way it looks inside of GetResponse. You're going to need to do the same process inside of Aweber or Constant Contact, but you'll need to find out what the automation process is for your autoresponder system. Right? This is the way it's done in GetResponse. It's not going to look the same way inside of yours unless you're using GetResponse. Aweber is pretty similar if you find the automation. So again, all you're doing is removing someone from a prospect list as soon as they become part of your buyers list. Now, I have here, you want to set up automation rules for additional offers and lists, including affiliate offers if possible. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is you want to have people taken off the prospect list. You're going to do this as many times as you can. So in other words, anything that happens, you want to have someone removed from your prospect list when an action occurs. Now, you're going to need to do this several times, but you only have to do it once, right? So anytime you create a new list that somebody who is on your prospect list could become part of, you want to make sure you go through this automation process to have them removed from the prospect list. Any new list you set up, have the prospect removed from the prospect list. Because what we're going to do with the prospect list is we're going to continue to add emails, right? Now, let's say that we get done with this series, right? Let's say the five-day series ends. Well, we don't want to just leave it at 5 days. We're going to assume then that if they haven't purchased anything, we want to continue to market to them. So what are we going to do? We're going to add in emails and we're going to automate them so that everybody who becomes part of our prospect list will continue to get emails until when? Until they actually buy something. Okay, so if that makes sense to you, please put the number 5 in the question box. If it doesn't make sense, please let me know. Okay. All right, so now what you're going to do, you're now set up inside of your autoresponder to send broadcast messages. Right, so I'm going to leave this here. And what we would do here is we would go to our buyers list. Inside of Get Response, we're going to then create a newsletter. Now, the format's going to be the same, but this is going to be your broadcast emails. These are going to be emails that you're going to be sending to people, doing promotions, telling them about training you have, and pretty much what you're going to be sending to them on a daily basis. Those are going to be your newsletters. Now, that, again, that's what they're called in Get Response. They could be called something different in your autoresponder, but you are now ready to start sending broadcast messages, right? And finally, what you want to do is you want to try to keep your prospects on your sequence and keep your buyers on a broadcast. Now, again, if you set this up right from the beginning, it's going to work. And again, most people don't get this set up right from the beginning, and so they end up having to send broadcast messages to prospects as well as buyers. Now, again, if you can keep people who are purely prospects on an automated sequence until they become off, you're going to have better tracking and you're going to start your online business correctly, right, from your PLR. And so we're going to walk through this process inside of Get Response, and Get Response is going to be pretty similar to any of your other autoresponders, Aweber, MailChimp. For the most part, it's going to work the same. Right? And so once you understand this, you'll be able to do it in whatever your autoresponder is. And even if you have another squeeze page other than the one we're going to be working with, you'll be able to do this. So let's go ahead. Okay, so we're going to be working with your squeeze page tonight. Your squeeze page. And as I said, this is not a straightforward process. So this isn't something that you're going to be able to carry from line by line directly into another system. So some of this is going to be peculiar to whatever it is that you have. So if you have Aweber, this is going to look slightly different. If you have Constant Contact, if you have one of the other ones, it's going to look slightly different. But the good thing about this is that once you've seen this process, you'll know what to look for in your individual autoresponder. And obviously, if you have get response, you'll be able to do this right off the bat. Okay, now, the very first thing that I'm going to suggest you do is to upload your pages unedited into your server. Right, now I'm going to do that inside of FileZilla. So if you have FileZilla, I have FileZilla Pro, and you may have something different. That's okay. So if you don't have FileZilla and you have another system that you're using, that's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my server. I'm going to do that off camera, and just going to jump in here to my server. I'm going to bring this back in front of you here, and then I'm going to go and look for the published HTML folder. And then I'm going to hopefully have already created some kind of subdirectory. So in this case, I'm going to create this. It's going to be 60 minutes, right? I'm just going to create a subdirectory, right? And so there's my subdirectory. There are no files in there right now. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to then put pages unedited into this directory. And so one of the ways that I can do that, of course, is I can go and use FileZilla, and I can just double click all of the files, or I can drag and drop them. And so in this case, I like to see my files being done. So I'm going to drag and drop them here. So let's go to the actual folder, right? So I'm going to show you what this looks like. So I'm going to open up the lead page folder. There's the folder for the squeeze page, and then here are all the files. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those files, I'm going to drag and drop them into the directory that I'm going to have for my squeeze page. And I'll drag and drop them over here. Hopefully you all understand that. I mean, you probably already have some kind of FTP program. This is probably pretty much elementary to you. But now I want to put those in there unedited because I want to always be looking at what this is going to look like on my actual server. I can look at my files inside of my web browser. It isn't always going to be reliable in terms of how your pages are going to look. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the squeeze page, and I'm going to open this up inside of my HTML editor. In this case, I'm using Dreamweaver. So I'm going to open this up inside of Dreamweaver. You can use whatever you're going to use, right? So if you're using a different one. Okay, so here is my squeeze page. Okay, and so basically I'm going to always use the split window, which is going to show me the actual HTML at the top, and then it's going to show me the code at the bottom. What I can do is I can take this directory, I can copy the URL, I can then go to, and I like to, when I'm testing this, I like to go to an incognito browser, right? So I'm going to do is I'm going to put this URL in here. Remember, I'm going to take out the public HTML when I'm testing, and then I'm going to take out this FTP. That's going to, because that will not give me a correct URL. And then I'm going to hit enter. And then here is my squeeze page, right? So basically, if I put my name and email address in here, I can put this in here, but this is not going to go anyplace because we don't have anything connected to it, right? So it's going to function right. The button's going to act right, but it's not going to do anything, and that email address isn't going to go anywhere. Right, all I've done is I put the files on my server, and now they're on the web. I've uploaded my unedited pages to my server, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my autoresponder now, and I'm going to create a form inside of my prospect list. Right, so I'm going to go and open this up. I'm going to go inside of my autoresponder. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to a specific form, right? Wherever I want to create the list, that's where I'm going to go to the form. So I'm going to open up one list here. And it's going to take me a minute to open this up. And you're going to have to do the same thing in your autoresponder. You're going to have to work inside of a specific list. Hopefully what you're going to be working with is you're going to be working with your prospect list. Right? So I'm going to go here and I'm going to work with a prospect list. I'm going to make that the current campaign. And I think I called that prospect list. Okay, so now I have my prospect list. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a form inside of that prospect list, and in GetResponse, you've got a menu for forms. So I can then go and create a form. Now in GetResponse, they have a list builder wizard, but there's going to be something specific we're going to be looking for, and you're going to look for this something specific inside of yours, even if you don't have a wizard. You're going to notice a lot of patterns here, and we don't want that pattern on top of our squeeze page, right? What we want is we want a blank form. So that's what I'm going to click here. I'm going to click the blank form. So all I want to do is I want to get choices in the blank form section. You're going to notice I have all blank forms. And that's where I want to start with. Now I'm going to take the most simple one here, and this is going to be the one I want to work with. This is going to be the template that I am going to work with. I'm going to click Use Template. And then that template's going to load up for me to work inside of GetResponse. Now again, you're going to have something similar inside of your autoresponder, and you'll be able to work with it in that way. Okay, so now we have this form. Now obviously, we want to be able to put this form inside of the HTML so that it appears right here. Right, so we want to get as close to this as we can. Right, unless you really do want to change it. Now obviously you're going to have some latitude here. So what I'm going to do inside of GetResponse first is I'm going to then take out this text. And in GetResponse, all I have to do is click that text. I can click this trash button, and then that's no longer there. Right? So now that area is going to actually be gone. What I'm going to do also is I'm going to click inside of the background. Right? So I've got the background and I've clicked it. I want to then look at the layout. I also want to look at the style, right? So with the style, you'll notice that the background here is white. And what I want to do is I want to change this background to transparent. Right? So I'm going to click OK. Now, does everybody see how that form now is going to be transparent? And that it's not going to reflect any color, and it's going to reflect the color of the background of my existing squeeze page. Does everybody understand that? Now, if you look at this, if we were to look at this form, right, you'll notice here that this form has enter your name, enter your email address. Now, we don't have to have it that way. You'll notice here that these fields are reversed. Now we can change them and switch them if we want to, or we can just leave them, right? We can leave them that way. So in this case, I'm going to leave them that way because I'm going to actually change the HTML. So I'm not going to reverse these things. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to reduce the size. Right? And then I'm actually going to click inside of this email address area. And I'm going to look at that box here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out that label. Right? And I'm actually going to take out this label. And then I'm going to write in here your best email address. I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to take out this label that says first name. I'm going to take out this text that says help test goes here. And then I'm going to write in here your name. Okay, now what I can do here is I can actually slide these a little closer to each other. And that's what I'm going to do. Right, and then I'm going to scrunch this. I can take this submit button, I can move it up some. I can scrunch this some more. All right, so now I have a pretty basic squeeze page form. Right, so now what I want to do is I'm going to stretch this a little bit. And then I'm going to stretch these a little bit. I'm going to stretch this one out. I'm going to take this submit button. I'm going to move it to the middle. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I like to just kind of check and see how my form is looking so far. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to save and publish this form. And what you're going to notice is that I have some JavaScript code here. And I want to actually use the JavaScript code because what this is going to do, this is going to allow me to make changes and to check them on my form in real time. If I choose to use a pure HTML code, I would have to go back and change that form every time I make an edit. So I'm going to copy this JavaScript code. I'm going to copy that to my clipboard. And then I'm going to go inside of the code here. Right, I'm going to now go to this form because I want to replace this form. Right, so I'm going to look for this form. And the entire form is here inside of the code. Let's lift this up some so you can see it. Let's copy all of this. And then let's hit Control V. All right. So if I click inside of here now for my form, I'm going to then see it's going to look invisible because it's JavaScript. Right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this now. I'm going to save this now as an index file, but I'm not going to copy over the index file. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call this toIndex, right? Because I don't want to copy over that index form yet. So I'm going to call that toIndex. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this form, and I can then double click this form to see how it's going to look in the browser. Right? So let's double click this. Okay, so that's probably not quite what we want, right? We probably need this to be a little wider, and we may or may not want that green submit button. So we want this to be a little bigger. We may want this form to be a little wider. So we've got JavaScript. So what we can do now is we can go back inside of our form, and we can go back to the form creator. That's going to open up that same form we were working with. What we probably want to do here is we probably are going to want to just widen out. We want to widen this out some. Let's widen this one out to the same width. Let's pull these on top. Let's bring these kind of close to each other. Let's narrow down our box here. And then let's save it. Okay, so we've got our code here. We've saved the form. Now what we can do is we can go back and we can look at the same form, right? So now all we need to do is we need to then refresh this page, and we'll be able to see our form that we changed. Okay, so now this is probably off center a little bit, right? So I don't necessarily like that, the way that looks. So let's go back here and let's bring this in a little bit here. Let's bring this one in. Let's take this out a little bit. Okay, I'm going to save this. I'm going to come back to my JavaScript. Okay, I think that's close enough, right? So now, let's say that I don't like this button. Right? I want to change this button. I actually want it to be closer to the one that we had before. So what I can do inside of here in GetResponse is I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go back to the form creator. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on top of this submit button. And then whenever I click on top of something, I'm working with it here. I'm going to now go to the style, right? And so what I'm going to do is, I think what I really like to do here is, the first thing I really want to do is I want to take this text. I want to make the text transparent, right? I'm going to click OK. So now the text is no longer there. And what I'm going to do is I want to then look at the button. Now I want to make the button, I want to make the hover color transparent. I want to make the color transparent. I want to make the gradient transparent. And what I want to do is I want to take this image and I want to choose one of the images inside of the package. So I'm going to go and grab an image. That is our button. Now I've already uploaded the button here, but if you would just go to your computer, you click upload from computer, you would find the button here, right? We would just upload that button. Now I've already uploaded it here. So it's already here inside of GetResponse. So I'm going to put this in the center. I'm going to scale this up. Make sure it fits the screen. I'm going to size this up here. And what I really want to do here is I want to take that shadow out. So I'm going to now make that transparent. I'm going to slide this button over. And I'm now going to save it and publish it. And so now all I have to do, because I'm using JavaScript, is I can refresh this. And there's my button. Okay, so we've got our button in there now. And so now what we're going to do here is we should probably rename this page, right? This page says thank you page. So I'm going to go inside of the text here. And I'm going to call this whatever I want to call it, right? I'm going to change the title to 60 minutes copy. I'm going to save that. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to refresh. And now my page title is what I want it to be. Right now, basically what we've done here is we placed our form in here, and now when the individual puts their name and email address in, it's going to go inside of the form for the list I created inside of GetResponse. Right, so now let's go back to the form creator. And what we're going to do when we get back to the form creator now is we're going to work with this a little bit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the thank you page. Now this is where GetResponse is going to send the person once they've opted in or once they've gone into our list. Right, so we want to be able to work with this now. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the settings. I'm going to call this web form to the sales page. It's going to be for my campaign, my prospect list. I'm going to have confirmed opt-in. And I'm going to add them to my day 0 list. Now, here's the important thing here. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to choose the thank you page. I'm going to choose a custom thank you page. And what I'm going to place here is I'm now going to place in here my sales page, right? Because what we want to happen is when the individual opts into our list, we want them sent to the sales page, and then we want them to get the autoresponder messages. Now, there's something important here that you want to do if you're going to do this. You want to make sure that the individual either gets their product with the sales page, or you can also make sure by placing the link inside of the first email in your automated series. Let me say that again. What you're going to do for the thank you page is you're going to place in here the sales page, but you also want to make sure that the person gets what they opted in for. And so what you can do is to either place it there on the sales page at the top, or if you don't do that, you need to make sure that they get the content in the first email that they receive from you in your automated series. Right? So what I'm going to put here is I'm going to find my sales page. Whatever our sales page is, we're going to place that sales page inside of here, and that's going to take them there as soon as they opt in. Right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm now going to then click the Save button. And what I can do is I can actually then, I don't have to worry about this sales page. The thank you page is going to be the one that they're going to be sent to. So now what I can do is I can take my files and I can upload them to my server. So what I'm going to do here is I'm now going to go to the original index file. I'm going to rename that original index file to another number. I'm now going to change the one that I edited back to just plain index. And now what I can do is I can take these files and I can upload them to my server. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop them over here, or drag and drop them inside of this folder. And it's going to ask me if I want to overwrite. I'm going to say yeah. Overwrite one more, I say yes. Overwrite one more, I say yes. Overwrite one more, I say yes. Okay? And basically, I'm going to then say always use this action or apply this to the current queue. And so all my files are now copied. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my URL. And I'm going to refresh it. And there is my button. And then my individual will then go to my list when they opt in. Okay, so we've added the code from our form to our squeeze page. We have made adjustments to our squeeze page form. We've added the sales page address as our thank you page. We've added our thank you page address to our first autoresponder message. Okay, now there is an easier way to do this. And what we can do, let's say that is just, everything I just did is just way too complicated. All right, let's say that was, you just kind of feel like, okay, you know what, that's a little too much for me. What we can do, and let's just say what you want to do is we're gonna go backwards here. We're not gonna save this. Okay, let's open up this index file. Okay, now I'm gonna go to the split design. And let's say that what I want to do is I just want to make this simple, right? So I have this button, right? So what I want something to happen when people click this button. What I can do is I can go back to Get Response. I can go to the Forms Creator. I can create a form. I can click the List Builder Wizard. And I can then just go and create a blank form. All right, I'm going to choose this template again. And this time, I'm not going to make any changes to the template, right? Because all I'm going to do is create a button, right? All I want to do is to create a link. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this headline. I'm going to shrink this down. I'm going to take out the email address. In fact, I don't even really have to take that out again. Right? In this case, I think what I'll do is I'll just take out this line that says help text goes here. I'll take it out here. I'm going to move these closer together. I'm going to move this submit button up. I'm going to scrunch this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Save and Publish. I'm going to then get this link that says Get Response will host my form. I'm going to copy that link. Then I'm going to go back to my Dreamweaver. I'm going to connect that link to this button. All right, let's do it this way. We're going to go and we are going to get the properties of this button. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my link in there. And then I'm going to close that link. Okay, I think that's correct now. Now I can save it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go and look at that file. Okay. What's going to happen now is when the individual clicks this button, instead of going through the whole thing, when they click that button, it's now going to go to this form. Right? Now that's a simpler way to do it. So if you just want to place the button on top of your form, you can do it that way. Right now, the better way to do it is the first way that I showed you. But if that's just going to be too much and it's going to be a little overwhelming, then all you've got to do is to go and get this form, this button that says Get Response will host my form. You want to then place that button on top of your form by associating this hyperlink with the button. When they click the button, they get taken to the form that's already online. Okay, well, if that's it for tonight, everybody, we will work with the sales page tomorrow. And then I think I called it Testing Your System. What we're going to do is I'd rather title that session not testing, but building your system. Right? And that's probably going to be, other than the orientation, is probably going to be the most important session, because we're going to then talk about mapping, right? And probably the best title would be Mapping Your System, because we want to map out where the pages go. And you need to have a map in your head before you start this process. And I didn't want to start with that, but I think it's a great place to end the course. Right, so if there are no questions, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. Look forward to seeing you again. Have a great night. Pleasant tomorrow. Take care. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started here. And tonight we're going to be talking about sales pages. We're going to talk about sales pages. Now, one of the first things you're going to do, obviously, is you're going to, in the same way, even before you start editing the sales pages, is you want to go ahead and upload your sales pages to the server. And that's going to work the very same way as we've been working with the sales pages before. I'm going to grab the sales pages here in this area. And I'm just going to grab the sales letter and thank you page. Here's the sales page. Here are all our sales page files. So I'm going to go ahead and just open up our FileZilla. And what you're going to do when you get your server up and loaded, I'm going to load this off camera. And then once I get into this, once I get into my site, then I'm going to come back on. And let's see, I think we are there. Okay, we're now open. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go inside of the public HTML folder. And then what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go inside of this folder again that says 60 minutes. Now we've already set up a squeeze page there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete those files for now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload the website files to that directory. Right, now you would obviously create and choose a directory that you want it to be. I'm placing this in the same directory that we were working in before. I'm just going to drag and drop those files into the directory. And once I drag and drop those files into the directory, I can then click copy URL to clipboard. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up an incognito browser here inside of Internet Explorer. Now you can do whichever one you want. I'm going to change this URL. I'm going to change this URL here. Make sure we have the HTTP. And then click enter. And then we have our content. Right, so there are our sales pages. Now obviously our buttons we don't have anything in the button area. So once we do that, we're going to edit our pages using our HTML editor. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the file where those sales pages are, and then I'm going to edit the index file. And I'm going to go and open this with, now I'm using Dreamweaver. You can use whatever HTML editor that you want to use. I'm going to open this up with Adobe Dreamweaver. And that's going to give me this index file. I'm going to close these others here. And remember, I always want to use the split screen between the actual page and then the code here. Right, and so the way this works in Dreamweaver, and generally any HTML software that you're going to be working with, if I highlight a particular word, you're going to see that same word highlighted inside of the code. I can go to the code and do the same thing. I can do it backwards. If I want to highlight something in the code, then Dreamweaver will find that on the HTML page. Now, if you're going to be doing an upsell, you can upload the upsell page also. One of the things that you want to do if you're going to make changes to a sales page is you need to decide ahead of time what you're going to change. And here's what I mean by that. I'm going to go back to this page. I'm going to look at this page, and I'm going to want to know what I'm going to write in. For example, I'm going to want to change any of this paragraph or any of these words. I'm going to want to know that ahead of time. I'm going to want to know what I'm going to be doing to the subheadlines. If I want to change one of the images, I'm going to want to know that ahead of time, right? And I'm going to know what I want to write here. And that's going to be pretty important because you don't want to start working with the code and making decisions about what you want to write while you're doing it. You really want to have an idea of what you want to say before you actually say it. Because again, then the changes are actually going to be able to go fast, and then we're going to be able to focus on doing things like adding in our bonus. Okay, now to make things easier, you want to try to make your changes in the code and not in the WYSIWYG. Well, let me show you what I mean by that. Now, if I'm going to make changes to any of this content, I really don't want to write those changes in here and start making changes in the WYSIWYG editor. I'd much rather make the changes inside of the code because it's going to be easy for us to walk or in other words, code over something. It's very easy to do that. For example, if I put my cursor here, and let's say that what I do is I then start to delete the periods. I could delete this paragraph line without meaning to. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to change the shape of the page, and that's not what you want to do. I'm going to actually now go back to undo delete. And you're going to see now that this paragraph notation is back in there. And again, if I do that, I'm going to make sure I keep the structure of the page, and I'm going to keep the general look of the page. And so if I want to keep the general look of the page, I can make the changes, even though I'm going to be changing the same words, I want to make them here and not in this area. So let's say that I want to change this from constantly struggling to, if you're struggling, to do instead of write your own content. Now let's say then that I want to see what that's going to look like after I've made the changes in the code. All I need to do then is I'm going to then click inside of this WYSIWYG area. You're going to see that change, right? But you want to make the edits here inside of the code if you can. Now that might mean that you're going to need to know a little HTML, but even if you don't know HTML, you can pretty much see where the words are. And if you can tell where the words are, all you've got to do is highlight them. You'll be able to see them inside of this area. Right? So let's say we want to change how to create tons of quality content, not high quality content. I'm going to make the changes in the code. I'm going to see it here. You'll notice here that I've still got the word high quality content, but then once I've made this change, all I've got to do is I've got to click inside of here. You're going to see that high, the word high, go away. Right? So again, anytime you want to make changes, you can highlight them here, then go to the code and make the change. And it says if you can speak it, I'm going to then take this then out. I'm going to make this a semicolon. Now I'm not going to see the change here, remember, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click inside of here, and then I can see the change in terms of what it's going to look like. Now, if I want to make changes and I want to tell what those changes are going to look like as I go, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to save this page as something. And just as I did before, I'm going to make this the number 2 then index. And then I'm going to click save. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to now go back to my folder. And if I want to know what this page is going to look like inside of my browser, all I've got to do then is click this link to the HTML page, and then my browser is going to pull up that page. Right? And then we can see some of the changes that we've made here, and we can see them as we go. You can see the colon we put there. You can see the content that we've changed there. What you can also see is that I have retained the basic structure of the page. So I haven't lost the structure of the page. And the way that I do that is I make sure that when I'm making the changes, right, when I'm making the changes, I'm making the change inside of the code. Right? So if I want to change, let's say I want to change this part of the headline, want a faster way to develop content. Right? And so I'm not gonna make the change up here, even though I can. Right? Because again, what's easy for me to do? Let's say that I put my cursor here and that what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to eliminate some things here. You'll notice that I have the italics here. And what I can do almost by accident is I can then click that. And you'll notice how the line has changed. Right? Well, that's easy to do if I do that inside of here, right? And what happens here is you'll notice then that I start getting a little code mixed up here when if I just make the changes inside of the code, it's going to be easier for me to keep track of what's happening. Okay, so now for the sake of going back, I'm going to undo edit source. That's going to bring that back. I'm going to undo delete. That's going to bring that back. So instead of making those changes up there, what am I going to do? I'm going to place my cursor here. And then I'm going to write in here what I want it to be and make the changes here. Want a better way. If I want to see it, I'm going to click inside of the page, and then I see my changes inside of the page. Okay, so now what I want to do is, remember, one of the things that I suggest that you do with all of your PLR offers is you add in a bonus. And so what I need to do then is I need to find a place where I can add in a bonus easily, right? So what if I go back here? Well, let's take a look at the page again to see where we might add in a bonus. Right? There's the introduction. Okay, I might add in my bonus here. Right? So really, instead of working with this image, now again, this is a second call to action, but I'm actually going to change this call to action to my bonus. Right? Maybe that's what I want to do. So I'm going to have to take note of a couple of things. Number one, I'm going to want to know the dimensions of this image. Now I can look inside of my folder and I can find out what those dimensions are. So I'm going to go inside of there. I'm going to go inside of my images. And then I'm just going to hover over that image if I'm in Windows. I'm going to see that this image is going to be 1000. Let's go back. It's going to be 1000 by 731. Right? So in general, I don't want my image to be bigger than that. I can have my image to be smaller than that. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to this area of my document. I'm going to do that inside the HTML. I'm going to go to the sales page. I'm now going to go back and look at this here. And I want to find that spot in my page. Okay, so we've got this image in here, and what you're going to notice here is that it doesn't really resize the image. So that's going to be a true size of the image, right? So 1000 by 731 is the size of the image. What we don't want to do is we don't want to mess with this image too much so that we change the structure of the page, right? So what are we going to do here? What do we notice here? Well, one of the things we notice is that this area of our page sources an image. It sources images /combo.png. Right, so let's find that inside of our folder. Right, and so here is that image. It's combo.png, and remember, this image is going to be 1000 by 731. So what am I going to do here? I'm going to find an image, And let's say that we work with this image. This image is going to be 500 by 315. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back to my folder. I'm going to add in the image of my bonus. Right? So what am I going to do now? Well, I'm going to change the name of this. Bonus offer. Right? Just so that, and I like to make sure that there are no spaces in there. Right? Just less that I'll have an opportunity to mess up. So now I've got an image here that's called bonus-offer. Right? What am I going to do now? Well, I'm going to go to where this image is. I'm going to change this. I'm now going to make this not combo.png. I'm going to change this in the code to bonus-offer. And Dreamweaver has already found the image. So all I've got to do is click that. Okay, so now I've got this change. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to click inside of this area so I can see it in the page. Right, and that's kind of small, but it's there. Now, what I want to do now is I want to save this. I'm going to save this as this page. I'm going to overwrite that. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm now going to then check that page. Okay, so the page is the same. And now I should have my bonus image there. And there it is. So what do I want to do now? Well, now what I want to do is I want to change this text so that it says something about and get this awesome bonus or something like that, right? So I'm going to go back here. And I'm now going to go back to my edit screen. I'm going to go back to this index page where I've been editing. I'm going to go back to that section. Actually, I want to go to index 2, yeah. I just want to change the text to this. Now, this is the easiest way for me to add in a bonus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my split screen where I can see the code and design at the same time. I'm going to double click this so I can find the code. Right, so there's my code. Click this button now to get to this instant access. So what do I want to do? Well, maybe click the button now to let's say, also get access to, I'm going to change this where it says instant access. I'm going to say that. Also get access to this. And now I'm going to change this wording that says bonus video training. I'm going to call video training. I'm going to call this bonus video course on Bitcoin. I'm going to click in here. Okay, that doesn't look exactly the way I want. So I'm going to need to know a little bit of code. What I'm going to do is I'm either going to take some of this wording out of here, and I can do that very easily. If I go inside the code, I delete that text, and then I've got some text here where I have added in my bonus. If you're with me on adding in the bonus to our sales page. Right, so pretty much what you want to do is find an easy place to put your bonus in there. Right, so it's not always going to be obvious. Every sales page is going to be different. You want to do this in the easiest possible way that you can if you don't know HTML code. Now, if you know HTML code, then of course you can just go right into the code and you can redo the code to make sure that you understand and you'll have it there where you want it. However, if you don't know HTML code, you're going to want to try to find an easy place where you can add in an image as well as change the text. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to save this. And then I'm going to go back. I'm going to check my page again. I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom. Also get access to this bonus video course. And then I've got my bonus image, and then I've got my pay button. Right? I can also place some text at the bottom if I want to, right? I could place some text underneath there, and I could be getting a little ambitious there, but I could do that, right? So all I got to do here is find my image. Find a divider, and then I want to put that image, I want to put that text right underneath this image. I can also do that. Okay, so we've looked for an easy way to add in a bonus. Typically means copying one section and pasting it in. In this case, all we did was we added in an image. We also paid attention to the image size, right? We made sure that our image was not going to be larger than the space because we didn't want to break the frame. Okay, so now the last thing we need to do to this sales page is we're going to need to decide on how we're going to take payment. And we will discuss that in the last section of this course on mapping and testing, right? And then we'll also do the last thing, which is to place the button code on your sales page to finish the process. Okay, so we're going to talk about mapping your buy buttons today. And this is going to be the wrap-up session. So we're going to be talking about where to go to get your buy button, using an affiliate network, using a shopping cart, using PayPal, the PayPal connection walkthrough, and then using your autoresponder as a backup system. Okay, so first let's talk about where do you go to get your buy button. And you do need to make a decision first on where you want to have your product paid for and where you will get your buy link. Seems like a relatively elementary decision, but it is one that will determine how you're going to do your setup. For example, and we're not going over it in this session, but you can set up something like SendOwl if you want to take Bitcoin, right? So let's say that you don't want to take dollars, you want to take Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency. You can do that on SendOwl. You can also, of course, use PayPal for dollars from most countries. So depending on where you are in the world, you're probably going to use PayPal. And if you don't use PayPal, you can use Stripe. And typically, if you're going to use Stripe, you're going to have typically some kind of third-party intermediary that will turn Stripe's coding into your buy button, right? But if you have Stripe, you have PayPal. If you want to use Bitcoin, you can do all of those three mediums. And you can use any of these merchants. But if you decide not to use them exclusively, let's say you decide you don't want to use PayPal exclusively, what you can do is you can use an affiliate network in order to deliver your product, in order to facilitate payment. And typically, if you're going to do that, you can do that on an affiliate network, and you're going to use some affiliate network like JVZoo, Warrior Plus, Thrivecart, and I don't have it in here, but you can also use ClickBank. It's a little different from some of the others, but it is an affiliate network where you can set up your product ahead of time, and you can recruit affiliates, and you can make sure that the product gets delivered, and you can take payment. Right? That's pretty much what has to happen between now and what we need to do here at the end. Let's talk a little bit about using an affiliate network to sell your product. Okay, one of the things about using an affiliate network is that you are fully disclosing your statistics, right? So if you want to make sure, if what you're trying to do is you're trying to make sure that your affiliates see how well your product is selling, because that is how they're going to determine whether or not they're going to promote your product or not, right? So even if you decide that you're going to only use the network, and you're only going to use the network in order to deliver your product. If you're going to have all these settings turned on, you're going to be putting your statistics. You're going to be listing your statistics to the public, right? And you will, the thing about using an affiliate network like JVZoo Warrior Plus is that you are not going to pay up front to sell your product. Now, if you decide to use ClickBank, you are going to have to pay a fee up front. Right? There's some ways around that, but you're always going to have to pay at least that initial fee. I think it used to be $50. Not sure what it is today. You're going to pay that upfront to sell your product. You do not have to do that on affiliate networks like JVZoo Warrior Plus. Okay, you're going to pay a fee for every sale that you make. You're going to pay a percentage, right? So everything you sell on JVZoo, you're going to pay 5%. I think on Warrior Plus, you're going to pay between 3 and 5%. And that's going to be what the affiliate network does. Now, you're paying that fee for some convenience. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. Now, on JVZoo Warrior Plus, affiliates are typically promoting because they expect to be paid instantly. That's one of the things about these affiliate networks is that you're typically going to have more affiliates to promote you because they're looking to be paid instantly. Right, using JVZoo Warrior Plus. Now, you may not even be recruiting affiliates, but if you decide to, and you want to have them to be able to promote the product you're going to be selling, then using these affiliate networks are going to be the smart way to go, because you're going to get the people who want to get paid instantly when they make a sale. So every sale, you're also going to pay a fee to PayPal. Right, so that's not going to be all rolled into one. So in other words, you're going to pay that 5% fee to the affiliate network. You're also going to pay a fee to PayPal. Right. So again, those are going to be two fees that you're going to be using. Now again, if you use just PayPal, you're obviously not going to be paying that additional fee on every sale. Right now, you will not have to set up your funnel manually if you use an affiliate network. So in other words, the software does everything. So all you've got to do is put the right pieces in the right place. You can then have your funnel set up, and then when somebody makes a purchase on the front end, they're automatically going to be shown the upsell, and they're automatically going to have their product delivered to them. Right? This does not happen automatically with PayPal or some other merchant. Right? But we'll talk about that here in a minute. Now, if you use an affiliate network, one of the benefits of using one is that they make it easy for you to connect your after-sale autoresponder. So in other words, what you're trying to do is you want to make a sale, and you want to have an individual added to your list, then the affiliate networks make it easy to do that. It's a drop-down window, and pretty much you're just going to drag and drop everything in there, and that's one of the benefits that you're paying for when you pay that 5%. Right? So if you're with me so far, please put the number 1 in the question box if you understand what I'm saying so far about affiliate networks. Right now, what an affiliate network does, it also makes it easy to lock up your content with membership software. So in other words, let's say you're going to use something like, I know you're going to use something like Wishlist Member. Well, there are areas of these affiliate networks where they will use the API to connect to the membership software. Right, so using an affiliate network makes it easy for you to lock up your content if that is what you're going to do. Now, you can decide not to use an affiliate network. You could decide to use a shopping cart or shopping cart system. I think there was one that was on sale this week. I don't know if you purchased it, but a shopping cart system. You can use one like ThriveCart, like ThriveCart. Now, here's where ThriveCart is different. ThriveCart, you will not pay a fee to ThriveCart every time you make a sale. So again, you make a sale on JVZoo. JVZoo is going to take that 5%. Okay, it's a convenience fee for all their software and everything that they're doing. On ThriveCart, you will not pay a fee for every sale. You will pay a fee outright for the shopping cart. Now, I don't think they're on a monthly basis. I think that the fee as of the recording of this video right now is going to be $595 for the cart. Right, so you would pay that fee to basically purchase access to ThriveCart, and then every time you make a sale, you're not going to pay ThriveCart anymore for the sales you make. Right now, the thing about ThriveCart is that the affiliates can still be paid instantly. Right, that's one of the advantages that JVZoo Warrior Plus has. But ThriveCart, they can still be paid instantly. Again, this is a shopping cart. And I'm talking about ThriveCart, but you can pretty much substitute in any shopping cart that's already out there. I think there's something called Sam Cart. There's something called Groove Cart that's a little recent. Any of those carts are going to allow you to designate or to determine how your affiliates are going to be paid. And since affiliates are more enthusiastic in their promotion, when they think they're going to be paid instantly, then you want to be able to offer them that, and you can do that with ThriveCart. In ThriveCart, there's no affiliate marketplace. The reason that that's important is that your statistics are not going to be disclosed openly to the affiliates, right? The entire product statistics. Okay, you will get your buy button code from the software. So in other words, when you get shopping carts, just like it's going to be just like Warrior Plus. You're going to get your buy button code from inside of ThriveCart. And typically, if you're going to be locking up your content, you're going to be locking it down. You want to make sure it's going to be working with the membership software. So in other words, if you're going to go with a shopping cart like ThriveCart, you want to verify that it's going to work with whatever membership software you've already purchased. Specifically, if you go out and you're paying on a monthly basis to a specific software system, you do want to, if you can, right? If you can, you want to make sure that the shopping cart you're using is going to match up with it, because typically a membership software is going to be something like a $300 to $400 investment. You don't want to just not use it because of your shopping cart. If you can, you want to get a shopping cart that integrates with your membership software. You are also going to want to connect your autoresponder to your shopping cart. If you're using something like ThriveCart, there are easy ways for you to connect your autoresponder. So as you start thinking about a shopping cart and you're going to actually go out and make a purchase for one up front, or you want to pay for one on a monthly basis because you don't want to pay a fee every time you sell something, then you're going to want to make sure that whatever autoresponder you're using, it does connect to your shopping cart, so that when somebody makes a sale, so that when you make a sale, right, you want to have that person added to your email marketing list. Okay? All right, so are you with me so far? So if you're with me so far, please put the number 2 in the question box if you understand what I'm saying. So far, so good. Right? Okay, I'm going to move on now. I'm going to move on, and let's talk about using PayPal or a merchant of some kind. Now, in most cases, and we're going to go over this mostly tonight, you can choose to use PayPal as your merchant and shopping cart at the same time. And regardless of how you do it, you are going to pay a transaction fee to PayPal, right? So when you get your product sells for $13, you're going to notice that PayPal will show you that you got, I don't know, $12 and some change, and that they basically took a certain amount out of it for their own fee, right? And so now, when you choose to use something like, you choose to use PayPal as your shopping cart, you are going to need to be tracking your sales, and you're going to need to pay your affiliates manually, right? You can use third-party software systems. I think there's something called iDev Affiliate. There's also something here that we have listed called WP Affiliates. I don't have an affiliate link, but that is where it is. Right now, you are going to need to know what you want to accomplish ahead of time before you start working with PayPal, right? So again, so let's say you're already done with the sales page, you made all your edits, and now you're just going to connect the button. You want to know what you're going to do ahead of time. Let me explain to you what I mean by that. For example, as soon as the buyer makes the first purchase, let's say they purchase your front-end product, what do you want them to see right after that? Right? Do you have an upsell, or do you want them to be sent straight to the download page? Again, that's your choice. You do not have to send them to an upsell. You can do this however you want, but you do need to know ahead of time what you're going to do. How is the buyer going to get their product? Are you going to make sure they get the download link by email? Or do you want to make sure, belts and suspenders, that they're sent straight to the download page once they make the purchase? Again, that is going to be your choice. It is doable inside of PayPal. You want to make sure if you're going to have an upsell, you want to know then, based on what we just talked about, well, how's the buyer going to see your upsell? Are they going to see it in the first email? Are they going to see it as soon as they make the purchase? Again, but there is no one size fits all. Now, there may be something that you're used to experiencing, but you do not have to do it that way if that's what you are not comfortable with and you don't want to do it, or you have a business reason for not wanting to do it. And this is really important. How are you going to get a double opt-in confirm email? Right now, when you decide that you are going to use an after-sale autoresponder, what's going to happen is that your customer is going to get an email in their box. It's going to say, join my list, and they're not going to know what that's from. You are very much unlikely to get someone to go to your email, open it, click the confirm link to become part of your list and get marketed to. That is not what they're going to do. So typically, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be using single opt-in when you make a purchase. Now, you should be giving those people a message as soon as they become part of your list. So in other words, the autoresponder adds that person, right, when you make a sale, and then that autoresponder on day 0 should be sending out an email from you basically saying, you know, we'll talk about this here in a minute, what you're gonna put in there, but it's going to send them the download link. Right? And you're also going to get them double opt-in. You're going to get them single opt-in confirmed, but we're going to want to work a little harder to get that double opt-in. Right? So let's talk about first how we're going to map this out. Okay? So you're going to first go to your PayPal system. I am looking right now at PayPal Standard, in case that's what you have. Now, many of you have the business version of PayPal. It's going to be the same. When you get inside of PayPal, you're going to find the place where you create buttons for your website. You're going to then go to create a button, and then you're going to go inside of this create PayPal button. You're going to fill in the information. You're going to give your PayPal item a name. You're probably not going to use add to cart. Right, so you're going to want to change that drop-down menu to, I think it's buy now. You're going to put your price in there, and you're going to make sure then that the person, you're going to use your secure merchant ID. Now, here's the most important thing, and I think we were talking about this before, that you want to be certain of what goes here, and this is where the mapping comes in. Notice down here, the very last URL, it says take the customers to this URL when they check out. This is where you will decide, based on where you map your product, what happens when the person purchases your product on PayPal. Right? Are they going to be sent to the upsell? Are they going to be sent to, let's say, a thank you page? Are they going to be sent to a download page? You will determine the URL that goes in this space when you're creating the product. Right? We are inside of PayPal. We are looking at putting in an URL based on where we want them to go. Again, please do not think that you have to use an upsell just because you got an upsell page. I know that people that are fundamentally opposed to upsells, which is fine. That is the beauty of being able to use PLR in the way in which you want to determine what the offer is, because you can put up however you want to. You can put the front end and the upsell in the same offer if you want to. It really doesn't. It's really up to you in terms of how you want to do it. Once you complete all that information, PayPal is going to send you to a page where it says add button code to your web page. You're going to see two sides of this area. You're going to see a side that says website. You're going to see another side that says email. You are going to grab the email link. Right? When you grab that email link, that's the email, or that's the link you're going to take back to your sales page. But before I do that, I want to then just talk to you a little bit about using your autoresponder as a backup system. Right? And we sort of talked about, we touched on this before. You definitely want to make sure that your autoresponder, right, whatever you're using, is going to be connected at the point of sale. Now, again, if you're going to be using, you know, an autoresponder that maybe isn't going to be one of the names that are going to be connected, you might want to consider that. right? Consider these kinds of things, because if you're making a sale, you definitely need to be adding to your list. If your autoresponder is not doing that, you might want to consider using one that does, unless you can do this with your autoresponder. Right now, if there's no direct connection between your autoresponder and PayPal, try to establish one with Zapier. Right? You can try to establish a connection with Zapier. You want to make sure that autoresponder sends them a first-time email, and you're going to send this in addition. Now, even if you have membership software, you should make sure that they get this first autoresponder email in addition to that. So do not depend on the transaction email saying, you know, they paid X amount, and then because they paid X amount, they got this link. You should still be sending them. And again, I realize this is belt and suspenders. I understand that this is going to give someone one more email. However, it is a fail-safe. It is a backup system. When someone does not get your email, they don't get their product, you should be sending something from your autoresponder to make sure that they get something from you, even if it's just to say, hey, if you've got a problem, come to our support here. Right? You can use that first email as an opportunity to do an introduction. Right? So that first, again, they're going to get the transactional email. They're going to get a link to click on, hopefully, but they may not get it. And so you're going to use this not only as a backup system, but you're also going to use it as an opportunity to introduce yourself. Tell them about, you know, how you came to sell the product and what you're going to be doing with them. Now, one more important thing about this, we talked about this earlier, but when you make this sale, you want to make sure that the list automation takes them off the prospect list, right? And again, this is something that we talked about earlier in the series. So make sure that that happens. Also, here's an extra step that I think you want to take. Now, if you can get them to opt in a second time, you want to make sure that that second opt-in is also an automation sequence that takes them off the single opt-in transaction list, right? Again, and I want to say that again because it's an extra step, and I think that if you can do it, you should do it. Here's how you would get them to opt in a second time. You're going to put a form on your download page, and you're going to say to them if they want an additional update, if they want an additional bonus, an additional video, a bonus video, something in their best interest, then you'll send it to them, and you just want them to put in their name and email address. They will then confirm in order to get that additional video. And then if they confirm and become part of your double opt-in list, you want to then use automation to take them off the single opt-in list. Right? Let's see, I've got a question here. It says, I had a new member the other day where only the JVZoo receipt went out. So immediate follow-up impressed her instead of being upset. Yeah, exactly. Right? So really when you can, and this is something that if you can do, and I think this is Dana that's saying this, it's something that you absolutely should do because it is a backup system. And nobody knows. Listen, these things happen to us. And even though something should work all the time, they just don't always work all the time. There are any number of things. It could be the way they're interacting with your WordPress site or your HTML. It could be anything, right? So try to, if you can, use that autoresponder as a backup system. Now, that first email is also a good time to say, listen, here's what else you're going to be doing. Now, if you're going to be emailing them, it's a great opportunity to say, hey, you know what? In this email, I'm going to be sending you emails on a daily basis. Now, somebody might say, oh, man, I'm getting off this list now. But you don't want them to start getting email from you and then be surprised about it, right? So again, everything that you can do to communicate up front in this email, plus have it be a backup system, would be just awesome. And one of the things that you want to note about this, if you're going to use an autoresponder, if you're going to use an autoresponder with PayPal, right, the autoresponder is going to limit what you can do inside of PayPal, right? So again, so even though PayPal is going to be simpler, it's going to be cleaner, you've got one space for your IPN, and you will not be able to do anything else with your IPN other than when you use it for this product. So again, you have to kind of weigh that out if you're going to use it that way, or this autoresponder. Now, one workaround to that is to use Zapier as the IPN connection. Then you can have a lot of different different options with your IPN. Okay, and just briefly, I just want to kind of talk you through this process. We have this email link, right, that we picked up, and so we're going to go back and link it to the button on the sales page, right? And I just want to kind of say this: if you decide to use JVZoo Warrior Plus, I'm gonna suggest that you don't try to use those links with your own button. I know people do it. If you are recruiting affiliates, you can have situations where your affiliates won't get credit and won't get paid because they're going to end up with their stats wrong. The only way you can really assure that this is going to happen, and even this is not a 100% sure, is you want to use the JVZoo Warrior Plus button that they give you. Again, you can just link out to the button you have, but I would suggest that you don't. I would suggest you go ahead and use their button unless there's a business reason for you not to. Right now, one other thing, that's kind of a minor thing before we move on to the sales page. If you're gonna be using an upsell page, you're gonna have a no thanks link. You want to make sure that you link from that no thanks link to your thank you or sales page. So in other words, they come to the upsell page, they decide not to buy it. They're gonna say, hey, no thanks. You want to make sure when they click that no thanks link that you set up the no thanks link to link to your thank you page, right, or your download page. Okay, now one more thing we want to do. So let's kind of go back to our sales page. And I'm going to open up this sales page because now you should have your link, right? And all you're going to really do, right, is you're going to, one of the easiest ways to do this inside of Dreamweaver is I like to click right on top of this button. And then I just like to go to the properties, right? So I'll go to Windows. I'll go to Properties. And then I like to place the link inside of that area that says Link to Buy button. Right, that's the easiest way to put it in. Now, in this case, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put in here Google, but you would put in your buy button link. And then all you have to do is close out the Properties button. You can then find your other buy button, click on top of it, then you're going to insert. Actually, what you're going to do is you're going to go to the window again. That's what we did before. Go to the Windows, go to Properties, put that link in there. Okay, any questions overall? Let's see. Okay, so let's take this part out. Okay, which kind of autoresponder beside ClickFunnels gives you the opportunity to make a thank you page that says your download is in progress? Please watch this video below. Okay, so basically what you're doing is you're using some coding so that a person has to watch the video before they get their download. Do I understand that correctly? Or is it while they're getting their download? Because if it's while they're getting it, and I will say something about this actually. Right, yeah. I generally, and this is a little more aggressive than I personally like. Right now, what I would prefer is that I would get my download as soon as I got to the thank you page. Right, and And I think you can do that in ClickFunnels. I'm thinking that you can do that on lead pages. I just don't know if it's what you want to do. Right? I think that you want to put that video on your download page. I think you want to give them that link also. And because in general, as I understand it, PayPal does not necessarily like anybody getting between them and what they purchased. Right? So in other words, you know, what marketers used to do is they used to put a bridge page between when the person actually made the purchase, they send them to a bridge page and say, hey, put your name and email address in here, and then they would send them to the download page. And PayPal really frowned on that. And so in general, I think that PayPal kind of frowns on getting between somebody and their download. And personally, I'm not a big fan of doing that. Right? I would prefer that I would prefer that I got my download when I made the purchase and I get there as soon as I can. You didn't make me do anything in order to get it. Right? But yeah, I don't know if you can do that outside of ClickFunnels. I think you can do that with lead pages. And ClickFunnels is unique in that it has an autoresponder and it is a paging system. Right? So they have the two bundled together. There are some other systems that are available. I personally use OptimizePress and Aweber, but they are separate systems. There are systems where you can buy them together. ClickFunnels is unique in that both are together. Right? That's a great question. Okay, so you're saying, okay, it's a bridge page, but it does not block them from their purchase. Well, I mean, you could do that. You could do that with the thank you page you have. So let's say you decided not to use ClickFunnels, right? Let's just say you went to this page. Let's just open this page up. Okay, let's say what we will want to do here is we want to put a video in here, right? We could put the video right here. So for example, let's say that we want to put the video up here after thank you for your purchase, right? So let's go here. Let's just get a video. And let's pick up the matrix. Let's click the share button. Let's click the embed code. All right, so we're going to grab this embed code and copy it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this thank you page. I'm going to go open with and I'm going to try to put this right under here after this H4 tag. And what I'm going to do is I know a little bit of code. I'm just going to put a break code in there. And let's put another break code in there. And then I'm going to put that video code in there. I'm going to make sure that video code is centered. See, it did not like that. Take that out. Okay, let's see how this looks. Okay, so here's my video here. And so I'm gonna write in here. I'm gonna write it here. Thanks for your purchase. Now watch this special video for a bonus webinar. Let's see, and I probably want to, break that. So I'm going to, I think I'm going to break here. Okay, and I'm going to take this break code out. So, okay, so now I have on my page here, and let's go ahead and save this. Okay, so here's the download, but the first thing you're going to see is watch this video. So you don't really need to have, like, you don't have to have ClickFunnels to do this. You can do this on your PLR sales, your PLR download page, right? And then they still get the download on that page.